Batman, the Court of Owls requests your presence. I don't have a Court of Owls mask on me, so my intimidation tactics will have to do. Hello everyone, and welcome to another Batman-centric reading vlog of mine. Last time, I dedicated my entire video to adaptations or supplementary material for 2022's The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, and in that video I said for people to comment below and tell me what other things I should read. I got a few comments about reading the Court of Owls saga by Snyder, and coincidentally, I found this while out in the wild. It is a novelization of the Court of Owls, so I thought, of course, why not dedicate a video to looking at the original comics as well as this novelization. So, to begin, the Batman Court of Owls was first published in 2011 and added into the collection of this volume in 2012. It was written by Snyder and illustrated by Greg Capullo and Jonathan Glapion. And Volume 2, City of Owls, also contains stories from James Tynion, Raphael Albuquerque, and Jason Fabok. Hopefully I pronounced all of those names properly. These two comics were written as part of the New 52 that was taking place at the time, and I've heard a lot of people say that Snyder is an excellent writer for Batman, so I decided to read Volume 1, The Court of Owls, and see what all the fuss was about. Before I give my thoughts on how I thought of Volume 1, I will quickly explain that I had some knowledge of the Court of Owls Batman story prior to reading the comics. I watched the animated adaptation of Batman vs. Robin, whichever year that came out in. Let's put that there. I watched that in the beginning of me getting into Batman, and I understood at the time that it was not properly adapting the Court of Owls. It was sort of added on to dealing with him as Robin and stuff, and it's more focused on their relationship than on really dealing with the Court of Owls. I know they include Tynion into joining a Talon, when that was not obviously in this adaptation. I found the movie fine, but I couldn't, say it's my favorite. A lot of those ones that came out at the time aren't my favorite, but they aren't terrible. They're just fine. Of course, I like the Tynion part of it. His voice actor did a really good job. It was really cute. And I do like seeing Bruce and Damien's relationship develop and them expressing their love and trust in one another is also a good storyline. So I understood even while watching that film that I was not getting the proper Court of Owls story. So reading this was an excellent way to get reintroduced to the ideas and the myths of the Court of Owls. Okay, it is a crappy rainy day out, so let us start Batman Volume 1, The Court of Owls by Snyder and Greg Capullo and Jonathan Glapion. Okay, so far I like that this one panel is obviously up and down like a regular comic, but then it switches to calendar style to help you believe that he's trapped in the labyrinth. That's really neat. And now it's totally upside down. That's so cool. So for my thoughts on Volume 1, I really enjoyed the aspects of this story that talked about Gotham and its origins and its history. I loved the architecture, the origin, the founding families, the history of Bruce's great uncle, Alan Wayne, and his mysterious death, and how it connected to the Court of Owls. I liked reading about Bruce as a little boy, trying to find out if the Court of Owls was real, and doing all of this baby detective work and failing, and then finding out in his adulthood that his intuitions were true, just that his detective work hadn't been fully mastered yet, or that the Court of Owls didn't really give him permission to find them until now. I found that really compelling. I prefer stories where Batman is challenged in his great detective work, his strength, his intelligence, his will. I like when his fears are involved as well, because he was scared of the Court of Owls as a kid, and now he has to deal with them now. So I really enjoy stories where he is being challenged in certain way. I also really enjoyed the fresh idea of the Court of Owls. I do like their design, I like their aesthetic, I like what they think they're doing. I like the whole setup of it. I love the idea that it's like an underground organization that has secretly run Gotham this whole time and like prevented things from being discovered or doing things for their own selfish means. Very interesting idea, and it parallels Batman, you know, obviously living underground and dealing with Gotham in this similar sort of way. Especially that they are all the rich and founding members of Gotham. As for the contents of the first volume itself, as I mentioned earlier, I liked how the labyrinth scene had the entire comic like go upside down and backwards. I really enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed the scene where Alfred is trapped behind the door in the cave while Batman is dealing with all the Talons literally swarming him. Very interesting stuff. This was a great setup for the story and a great mystery and a great reveal that the Court of Owls was indeed real, and now they are setting their sights on swarming Gotham, so it was really interesting stuff. Then while reading the second volume, The City of Owls, I found that a lot of the problems really showed their head here, and there were a lot of additions in this saga that I didn't particularly enjoy. Okay, here we are. We're finally at Batman Volume 2, The City of Owls, by Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo, and James Tynion, and others. Woo! My sibling told me about this part and how it's in every single one of these individual comics, and how you just had to read the message over and over and over again, and how it interrupted every single issue of whatever was going on. Glad I only have to read it once. Is Bruce playing with the bullet casings from his parents' murder? Bruce. Buddy. Not the Austin Powers twist. Okay, that's better. I'm glad that they sort of did, like, technically, he did have a brother, but, like, didn't live, and Lincoln is just, like, manipulated to believe that he is his brother. No. Why would this story imply that Alfred comes from a long series of butlers who helped the Wayne family? Can't he have just taken up a job once? No. Everything has to be connected? Because that's what good writing is, how everything is just premeditated and planned and, you know, chance doesn't happen. Okay, this stuff with, like, Harper Row is, like, fine. I don't care. I get she was in, like, the first issue. She, like, briefly helped out Batman. Didn't know who she was then. I know who she is now. This stuff is all fine and good. You know, just a little issue that's taking a break from what's going on. But I'm obsessed with the way this collection just completely changes art style without the, like... It's just... and, like, what's going on? Who's this? There's a tiger. Okay, we're on this story. I've seen this story before. It's a random tacked on part about the life of Mr. Freeze, and they change a lot. I am going to give credit to the art. The art here is incredibly gorgeous. Like, just look at all of this very nice art. Very good. However, I hate what this story does. Damien! Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you guys show up for half a minute. I've been chatting too much. He's fussy. See, I, like, hate that, like, Bruce does it, where he's like, we're gonna get rid of your wife. Like, no! Oh, I hate that it just turns his vengeance onto Bruce Wayne. Like, oh, wow, how original. And just, like, turning Nora into someone he doesn't even know. I don't know, I just really don't like that. I do like how Freeze is supposed to be a tragic character and, like, not really a villain. He's just doing awful, horrible things as a means to an end. I prefer that sort of storyline for him, and I cannot stand the ending, of course, because of this. As I mentioned earlier in my clips, I didn't particularly like a lot of the reveals in this comic. I did not like the Lincoln March brother attempt at a twist. Even in the contents itself, it was like, nope, this isn't true. He was deluded, just like how he tried to trick me. I've done all this evidence. I did have a brother, but my mother miscarried. It was a whole thing, and I'm glad that there was no true brother twist, because the idea of someone having a secret sibling is very CW. It's very Pretty Little Liars. It's very Austin Powers. So I'm glad that that is not truly the case. I just realized that his name is Lincoln March, and I am releasing this video in March. That was fully not intended. That's just a hilarious coincidence. Actually, no, I planned it all along, of course. I planned it all along because I'm very, very smart. Another thing that I did not enjoy that I also mentioned in my clips as I was reading was I did not like that Jarvis Pennyworth is Alfred Pennyworth's father and worked for the Waynes, and they come from a long line of being butlers because everything's connected, everything is fate. There is no chance for any random happenstance in fiction. No, everything has to be connected because I'm so smart. When I write things, I make everything connected and everything reflected and everything the same. And it was on purpose, because why else would a man get hired for a rich family to be their butler? Only if his dad worked there. No, I just did not like that. I found that to be odd. I don't know how it really connected in a way, aside from confirming that, sure, Bruce did technically have a brother for like 6 hours until the baby died. Otherwise, what really was there to show other than the Court of Owls was after his family even before. But that was also given in the example of Alan Wayne, who shows that the Wayne family has been targeted for generations. Why are we bringing Pennyworths into this? This isn't Pennyworth, the secret story of Batman's butler, the Emmy Award-winning TV show that lasted 3 decades. And another detail that I thought was a little bit lacking in both volumes was that Dick was introduced to possibly could have been a Talon, because they targeted him, and he could have become a Talon because they were trying to like get him and swoop him in, and Batman adopting him into his family saved him from that. I wish there were more details about that, more struggle going on with Dick about that. Sure, they have their little fight and, you know, Bruce backhands Dick to get whatever it was out of his teeth. But otherwise, that just sort of was left unsaid, and I am not sure if there is a comic series that follows Dick in that struggle, but I wish it were more in the main storyline. That would have been very interesting to see. After that, I then read the book Batman the Court of Owls, an original novel by Greg Cox. This was published in 2019, and according to the back of the book, Greg Cox has done a lot of movie novelizations, including the ones for The Dark Knight, and he's also written his own original material for different sci-fi shows, including Buffy, including Xena. So I just think that this was an excellent idea to create an entirely original novel based on the ideas of the Court of Owls volumes and making it sort of a pseudo-sequel. It gave Greg Cox sort of free rein to write whatever he wanted. He didn't have to base it on any certain thing, and he was able to provide a more mellow story about the Court of Owls taking place 100 years prior in 1918, and connecting a detective story to a series of spontaneous combustions that are being inflicted upon by the Court of Owls. So to go into a bit more detail for the plot, if you do not want this to be spoiled, just skip. This story is about Batman solving a series of spontaneous human combustions that are occurring between not just homeless people in Gotham, but a few elites, including a professor. And he then connects these human combustions to the work of the Court of Owls, whom he has dealt with in the past. Woo! He has the help of Nightwing and Batgirl as they are looking through a lot of Gotham City's art done by one artist, Percy Wright, and they realize that he had a muse named Lydia. And Percy was connected to the Court of Owls via his wife, and they were trying to develop an elixir that would help predict the future. And so he's dealing with that. He's trying to create the formula for the elixir while also having this affair with his muse, Lydia. And she is the model for a bunch of statues and art, all throughout Gotham. So in the present day, Batman is trying to connect all of these art pieces to the events that are going on that took place 100 years prior, and his own personal connection to the Court of Owls, his experience in dealing with them, and he is trying to take down this mini plot of them trying to burn people alive for the sake of finding the perfect formula to this elixir. I was surprised that the novel skewed into its own original story so well, because I was just expecting a novelization of the Court of Owls saga that already took place in the comics. So it was really, really interesting to see a completely original story that I just had to read and see what happened. The author also seemed to really know what they were doing. All of these orange tabs are references to the previous Court of Owls saga down to the nitty-gritty details. Not only does he mention Batman's foray into the labyrinth and fighting Talons, he also mentions how the Talons are created, what exact elixirs were used, what exact chemical makeups. So the author really, really knew what they were doing, really seemed to enjoy the comic storyline and incorporated it into his novel very, very well. So that was really, really fascinating to see, and I'm glad that I kept track of all the prior references because those were fun to find as well. The original characters of Percy and his wife and his muse Lydia were also pretty interesting, especially given the time period that they were in. I really enjoyed that. A few of the modern characters that Batman has to save that were in connection to the centuries-old plot were a little bit less interesting, but they were just meant to be sort of victim characters who got, like, forced their way into the situation just as Batman had. So he having, like, people to deal with and save and protect was a good element of the novel, but they just did not have a lot of character development that I enjoyed. The author also incorporated a lot of Barbara and Dick into the story. I really enjoyed their additions. I'm glad to see that they were assisting, and I liked reading their dynamic that they had with Batman. Greg was really good at incorporating their characters very, very well into the book. It didn't feel out of character reading what they were saying at all, and it wasn't like quirky, cringy wording. It was very normal comic style quips, and I thought a lot of what they said was very funny, very charming, and very interesting. I also really, really, really enjoy seeing Batman fighting for good and fighting for justice and fighting for random people in the city. The people he had to protect in the modern storyline, he was very protective of, and every time they did something to fight off a Talon, they always said, like, "Good job" in his head. It was just very sweet to see him being so kind, compassionate, strong, and fighting for his city and for the people of Gotham. So ultimately, I was really surprised by this novel. I thought I was just getting a word-for-word sort of novelization of the Court of Owls, but I really enjoyed this little sequel story that worked on top of the already established volumes of the comic and created something that is unique, compelling, surprising, and fun. It was really fun to read. So for my final ratings of each work that I read for this video, the Court of Owls Volume 1, I am giving 3 stars. The City of Owls, I'm giving 2.5. And for the original novel of the Court of Owls, I am giving 4 stars. I am so surprised how much I enjoyed this novel. I highly recommend it. It's great. And before I ended this video, I wanted to quickly comment that I have not seen the Gotham Knights television adaptation that I hear incorporates the Court of Owls in it. I know it didn't have long enough to develop absolutely anything, so I have no knowledge of the television adaptation of the Court of Owls. However, I have watched game footage. I've watched my sibling play the Gotham Knights video game adaptation, and one of their major storylines was the Court of Owls. So it was interesting to remember all of the aesthetics and the scenes and everyone connected to the Court of Owls within the video gameplay as well when I was reading the comics and reading that original novel. So that's it. That was my little mini reading vlog reading about the Court of Owls. I had a lot of fun reading both comics and the original novel, and I recommend all 3, of course, whatever my opinions are of each. Thank you so much for watching. If you want me to try out any other Batman-related comics to do another video such as this, please comment below and tell me which ones you would recommend to me next. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.